Moving slowly, things got very dark very fast, and Ben questioned how exactly they were supposed to handle flying blind. Though Mayax states that the Omnitrix should activate the homing beacon as they got closer slowly. And although the watch wasn't functioning properly, it was at least working enough to begin to turn the dial on its own, with one of the green dots on the dial then lit up and began to turn towards a direction. Telling Kevin which way to go, they begin moving slowly as Ben keeps an eye on the watch, making sure to tell them when and where to turn, watching carefully to see if they could find anything as the symbol on the Omnitrix then began to flash, making the area around them light up so that they could see their way through the asteroid field. 3 large drills attached to a cable jabbed into the hull before drilling down slowly further into the ship so they wouldn't be easily removed, with Kevin freaking out about them messing up his ride as they were hailed by the hybrid, telling them that their mission has come to an end and if they surrendered then their deaths would be quick. Kevin absorbs the metal of the ship and says, yeah, like that's gonna happen, while they are boarded by several DNA aliens and the hybrid. Ben takes out the plasma blade ready to fight, figuring with it being in closed space that might be the better choice, as Kevin tells Gwen and Mayax to go out and take out the tethers or they'll all burn up in planetary entry. Nodding, the two go to take care of that. As Ben and Kevin start to fight off the DNA aliens to get them off the ship, we then see the hybrid and 6-6 entering the main control room. Though they take notice of feed that was showing Gwen and Mayax cutting the tethers as they'd already gotten one freed, and they began to run off to stop them. Kevin and Ben, working together, start to take out some of the DNA aliens as Ben then opens up a hatch, calling for Kevin to send them this way, which he nods to and begins to knocking them back until getting them all into the chamber, and Ben slams the door, twisting the handle, making the lock in place, and slams his hand onto a button that opens up the outside doors, launching them into space. While this is going on, Gwen and Mayax start having to fend off 6-6 and the hybrid commander. Thanks to all the training Gwen had been doing over the years, she could do some spells even when wearing a spacesuit, unlike when she was a kid, and so was able to put up a barrier around them while letting Mayax work to cut the cables as they'd gotten the second one cut. Hearing the fighting going on above them, Ben and Kevin make their way to the hatch atop the ship, with Ben stating that Gwen can handle herself no problem, but they could still use the help to finish cutting the lines. As Kevin nods and they go out to help. Now that they were out in the open, Ben switched to using the staff once more and began to attack 6-6 as Kevin joined in the fighting the hybrid. While they were doing that, Gwen then strengthens her shield that had been cracked and then launched it at 6-6, sending them flying off of the ship. And as they were about to charge back, a floating meteor slams into them, breaking their helmet as it does so. Ben compliments Gwen, telling her, "Hey, nice shot," as he then helps Kevin fend off the hybrid, and Gwen starts helping finish cutting the cable line, snapping the last one together with Mayax. Now that they were all free to fight, Kevin and Ben slam into the hybrid as Gwen then began to use a spell with an incantation and launched off an energy beam that shot the hybrid off of the ship, with the 4 of them quickly getting back inside and running off back to the controls. The hybrid does manage to get back onto the ship and starts to claw at the upper hatch, though Kevin activates the thrusters and the kickback knocks them off as the group was now headed to Xenon. The 4 strap in as it was a rough landing, and they try to pump the brakes to stop them from crashing as they nearly slammed into giant mushrooms and other varying kinds of plant life, and once safely on the ground began to get out and find the creator of the Omnitrix. Mayax leads the way, telling them where the compound was supposed to be as they flew in on hoverboards. Well, Ben, Kevin, and Mayax did. Gwen could fly on her own. Looking around, once they'd entered inside, the place had appeared to be overrun by various plants. They continued to talk while walking as Mayax explained that Azimuth was paranoid his lab would be discovered, and Gwen looks at the plant, thinking there was something familiar about them. The plants then start to open up and attack them, revealing that they were aliens of wildvine species, which Kevin called wild florana, as normal florana wouldn't attack them like that. Gwen moves a distance away from the others and then proceeds to cast a spell that set all the plant life on fire, causing them to cry out in pain and drop. Ben stating, "Damn, Gwen has a body count." Gwen then smacking him, stating it was them or us, and Mayax stating that they wouldn't stop stop until they had at least one of them on the menu. Kevin then asks Myax where Azimuth would go if he had been attacked by the plants, and she then leads the way down a side pathway, and after getting to the end they see lights turning on and a small door opening up with a camera then scanning them, and a voice that was attached to a hologram of a large suit of some sort with glowing green energy bubbling appears, asking what they wanted and how they got the device. Ben questions if they were the creator, to which they said they were, and he tells them, long story short, found it when he was 10, and now it isn't working, and he needed to get it fixed. The creator then asked what Myax was doing there, as she says, "Nice to see you too, boss," looking annoyed. Gwen tells them that they needed the watch fixed because the hybrid were active on Earth, and they'd need all the help they could get. The hologram then pauses for a moment and says that they've begun sooner than expected, and opened up the chamber, allowing them all to come inside. Walking inside, Ben shows the creator the watch, asking if it was possible to fix it, to which they said of course it was, but it would take some time as he'd needed to do some upgrades to the system as well, and that they hadn't been completed yet, as we see a casing in the lab that looks sort of like a green gauntlet in the background. Ben asked if he could just get it working again and implement only what he'd already completed, and nodding, they then began to work, but stated that they'd have to do this by hand as the exosuit opens up and we see Azimuth for the first time ever in his Galvan form, with Kevin looking surprised, stating, "The Omnitrix creator is a Galvan? That makes way too much sense." As they continued working, Ben told Azimuth about the issues with the ectoneurite DNA and asked if he could lock it out, and told him about what happened to the conductoid transformation, asking if there was any way to get it back, though Azimuth then tells Ben that while he can lock out the ectoneurite by removing the genetic sample temporarily until he can find a way to keep it from having issues, sadly the system would not allow a secondary sample of conductoid genetics to be used, meaning feedback really was gone for good, saddening Ben.